Welcome back to the Angie McPherson Show. I have a special treat today. I have my biz bestie, Elizabeth Henson, on the podcast. Hey, girl.
Hey, I'm so excited to be back.
Yes, you're the first person to come back. And it's just like, that's who you are. Like, we talk every day, all day. And I'm like, we have some good conversations. Let's just bring them to the podcast. Like, let's bring our Voxer conversation to the podcast. And today I wanted to talk to you about one of our favorite things, in-person events. Like networking, we're talking local events, flying somewhere, a small group, large conferences. Like, you and I met at an in-person networking event, and we have traveled to networking events and stayed in hotels together. And I feel like people sleep on it. They really do.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I'm just glad that they are making a comeback. I feel like people are kind of awakening to the power of in-person events, but people are still like, oh, it's too expensive, or, oh, I don't have the time, or it's not worth my time. Like, I hear those kind of pushbacks all the time. And you and I have just seen like the fruits of what is possible when you either host events or go to them, or really both.
Right. Like, think about the relationships that we've built with people through in-person events. Think about the money we've made from like connections we made. You know, maybe somebody booked a shoot, or bought into a program, or I've paid people that I've, gone to in-person networking events. So I feel like people sleep on it. Like, there's so many ways to invest your time and money in your business, as far as like education and personal development and things like that. And a lot of people, I think they sleep on in-person events because, like you said, it's like the money or the time, or I can't get away from home. So many excuses. And I'm just like, if you just pick like one or two a year, and just be very intentional about how you show up, it can, like, the return on investment is crazy. It's crazy.
Oh my God, yes. And I think like one or two actual big events, I think people should be going to something monthly to actually, if they work remotely like you and I think every month they should be making it a point to be in person with other business owners, or at least like something community driven that gives them some visibility and exposure for their business.
Exactly. And there's so many different, like, let's go through like a laundry list of the different types of events that we've been through. But first, what was our very first in-person networking event in your business, in my business? I know mine.
That we attended or that we hosted?
We can talk about that too. Girl, we've done some events. We've done some events. Okay, so
I just want to say, because this is so helpful for anybody that's listening, I remember so vividly putting together my first workshop on like teaching someone how to use their camera, how to shoot on, manual. And I remember specifically the graphic I created an outline, and nobody registered. Like,
oh gosh,
my very first workshop, not a single person registered. Now, granted, I didn't like keep at it. I didn't know what I was doing on like the marketing side of things, but that is a very vivid memory, and it's important because what if I had given up after that?
Right.
Like, I consider myself to be a very successful host of spaces and events, and imagine if I had given up after that.
Exactly. It's like you have to, and that's with any like sort of launch of anything. Like, you have to keep going. Like, the way to fail is to just give up. Like, if you give up and never try again, or never try a different strategy, that's how you fail. But you're not going to fail if you keep pushing and you keep trying. That just makes me think of like the things that we've hosted. So the very first in-person event that I attended in my photography business was Amanda Hedgebet's. It was like a Q&A at her home.
And that's how we met.
You were there. Yeah, you were there. Was that your first in-person event?
I think I had been to one of her Q&As before. She was my wedding photographer, so I kind of knew her.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't remember if you were at the very first one she ever hosted.
No, I was not.
Okay, so I think I was at the very first one she ever hosted, and then that was like the second or third. She did quite a few there for a while.
She did them on like a recurring basis, which was really awesome. And I feel like there are two different types of events. Like, you can go to an event like that where it's all of your like peers and colleagues, people doing the same things that you're doing. So we were, photographers. We went to a photographer event. But there's also places where you can go where your ideal client is, and you can be connecting with them. So that was my first event. That's where we met each other. And then let's talk about the first event that we hosted together, because yes, we have attended a lot of events over the past decade, but we have hosted together individually a ton of events. I look back and I'm just like, we've been in this game for a minute. Like, we've been in.
I was like, Angie, do you remember Creative Connections? And I think that was 8 years ago. Because I just had something come up in my time hop with my studio space 8 years ago.
Wow.
I had that space. Isn't that wild?
We didn't know what we were doing. We were just like, hey, we love getting together. Let's get together, like-minded people. It wasn't just for photographers. It was all creative entrepreneurs. You had an office space, and we like split the groups up, and it was pretty much like speed networking. Like, we had like little groups who would talk for 10 to 15 minutes and move to another group. And I see the relationships that we built with people that were there, that people built within each other that were there. Like, that stuff is invaluable. You cannot put a dollar amount on the ROI of making a new connection, whether it's a colleague or a potential client or just a lifelong business bestie like you and I have with each other. Like, and just like, now we have this relationship where I'm like, what do you think about this idea? What do you think about this? Should we go? And it's just like, it's just the gift that keeps on giving to be able to get in person. Like, you just can't get that type of relationship over social media, over Zoom, like getting together, sharing a meal together, like seeing each other's faces and like hearing the tone of voice. Like, you just can't beat it. Like, what other, let's go through this laundry list. Let's go through the laundry list of events that we have attended, either together or separately, because I feel like people listening, they can get inspired and think like, oh, maybe I should seek out this type of opportunity, seek out this type of connection, or they can get inspired to host something themselves. Yeah. Like, when we pivoted from, I mean, it's not even a pivot, it's just in addition to it. But when we started hosting our own events, it just puts you in a different like mindset and a headspace. It really positions you as an authority. And we did that early on. We did that early on in our business. And I always tell people, you and I say this both, like, yes, get in the room, but also create the room. Create the room for the people you want to be connected with. If you feel like you're in a local market or in a community or niche where there's nothing out there, you're Googling and you're trying to get in person, there's nothing out there, prime opportunity to create something, to create it.
Yeah.
And that's what both of us have done. Okay, so this laundry list. So, intimate retreats. I've gone to like places where I've like stayed in a house with a small group of people, or like bunked up in a hotel with a small group, like definitely done intimate retreats. And you have too, right?
Yep.
Because we've done our workation. Oh my gosh. Yeah. We did a whole workation.
Yes. So I've been to intimate retreats. I've hosted intimate retreats, both. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And local meetups. I mean, that's just like, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
And I started hosting my own because I attended so many and none of them felt right for me. Like the energy, the people in the room, like I was still getting something, but none of them were exactly the container I wanted. So I literally created, 5 years ago, Hampton Roads Creative Network.
Yeah.
Every month.
Yeah.
Every month.
I love that.
30 members at one point.
That is incredible. And a lot of those members have like really just like become evangelists for your business. They have like invested in different opportunities that you've had. They've networked with each other. You've invested in them. Like, if you're in a local market and there's nothing around, people, take it from us. Like, create something. Even if it's just like, hey, the first Wednesday of the month, we're going to meet up at this coffee shop for an hour. We're going to talk business. We're going to like exchange information, like maybe even make a Facebook group around it, or a Slack channel or a text thread or something. Create the room. That's the easiest thing. It's very low overhead. You really don't have to pay for anything except for like a cup of coffee.
Starbucks, like a lot of these coffee shops now have like meeting rooms that you can rent totally free. I mean, there's so many opportunities to get something going if you just have that craving for connection.
Yeah, I love that. Especially if your business ideal client is another business owner, like create something for them to attend. That's very valuable. You can like speak on an expert topic that you might have, or it could truly just be like, let's network. Let's see what you do. Let's see what I do. Okay, what about
dividends? I mean, some of the people that were in Hampton Roads Creative Network are like doing really big things.
Yeah.
And like when I run into them, they're like, oh my gosh, like Liz like hosts these spaces, and she's so good at it, right? Like creating your own space is your opportunity to shine, no matter what it is that your expertise is. You know, that's your opportunity to shine and to shine the light on others, which makes people remember you forever.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What about vendor parties? Like, that's
Oh
my
my God.
jam.
Girl, I've been talking about these because ever since I left the wedding industry, I don't know about you, but I'm not getting any
I miss
invites.
it. I know. I'm like, wait, y'all don't care about me anymore because I'm not a wedding photographer. Like the local, is it like the local DJ company who DJs all the parties and weddings? They host a really good vendor party, but they always invite like their ideal clients and like their colleagues, like the wedding photographers, planners, florists, things like that. And I'm like,
Oh my
wait,
God, we had
call
so
me.
much fun. We had so
So much
much fun. I'm
fun.
like, we need to go crash those now, even though we're not invited, but like dress up like we still work in the wedding industry. Get like
Oh,
aprons and
I will go in there with my camera and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm a wedding photographer.
yeah.
Give me a plate of mozzarella sticks."
And those are
Like,
fun. I mean, those
I
are,
know.
and I remember when I quit my day job, I threw a
Hmm.
huge vendor party. I mean, there were probably
Yes.
50 or 60 people there. Remember, I was like chatting with Sean, and
You've had
yes,
multiple vendor parties. I think it was at like a
signature.
golf course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you had DJ, photo booth,
We had
food,
everything,
drinks, and
girl.
I'm
It
just
was
like,
a big, I
yes,
mean, I didn't think it was a big deal, but I remember someone that
huge
drove all the
deal.
way from Farmville. She was like, Liz, I thought we'd just have like 10 people around a table. This is like a big thing. And
Yeah.
at the time, I mean, it was all vendor parties, so it was all collaborative, but I did
Hmm.
pay for the food. And at the
Yeah. Hmm.
time, I remember just being like, oh yeah, I quit my day job. I'm buying
Yep.
all these people food, and like how empowering that felt. And I'm
I
sharing that because
know.
people tend to like sit in that scarcity of like, oh, I can't, are
Hmm.
you crazy? I can't spend $300 to $500
Yeah.
hosting something. But like, man, I mean, those relationships and like, it's all these like super important pillars that help us grow over the last freaking decade.
When you just said the dollar amount, $300 to $500 that you invest, that's how much you invested in that
And at the
event.
time,
I'm
that felt like
just,
a big deal.
I
At the
know,
time,
and
it was
I'm
a
just,
big deal.
and it is, for definitely still for, certain types of entrepreneurs who might not be making a lot. But like when I think about when you just said $300 to $500, I'm like, you have made thousands back from hosting and like just engaging in these relationships. Like it,
Wow.
people really sleep on in-person networking. Like they're looking for the latest trend or strategy or platform. And I'm just like, if you are targeting another potential client that could be in a similar circle than you, like just get out of your house. Get out of your house,
Yes.
shake a hand, put like feet on the pavement and talk to people. Like that is what, like marketing is centuries old. We didn't always have phones and computers and TikTok and all that stuff. People were literally walking into shops, walking door to door. Not that I recommend going door to door because do not
Putting
come
stuff
to
on
my
a
house.
bulletin board.
Right. I'm saying don't walk over to my house. Like I have no solicitation. Do not sell me anything on my door.
Yeah.
Don't do it. But, as business owners, we can just like for free go out to an event or pay for like a premium event and just meet like-minded people that we could potentially be working with. Another, I just have like little like notes about our like laundry list of events. Another one is like hands-on implementation style events. So like styled shoots, we both hosted and attended styled shoots back in like our wedding photography days. I've hosted styled shoots as a branding photographer, and those are good too, especially if you
Yeah.
need that hands-on help from somebody.
Oh my gosh. And those were so fun. I mean, when photography was our main thing,
Yeah.
those were so fun. I mean, and some of the attendees that went to my workshops are literally, they were my second shooter, my associate shooter, and like my best
Hmm.
friends. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like some of the people that attended as a student are now my best friends. And Sharon
Hmm.
went, she was
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
mentor. Now she's my best friend. Like,
Right.
you want to talk about rubbing elbows with people you admire, like go to their
Hmm.
events, invite them to
Yeah.
your events.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Create the room, get in the room, like just be in a room.
Yeah.
Get in a room. Let's talk about like the most expensive in-person event you've ever attended. I
Yeah,
know
so
mine.
we were talking about this, and I think it usually is in the form of it comes with a expensive 6 or 12 month program.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to like talk about a standalone event that was really expensive, I mean, I feel like some of those like 2 to 3 day photography ones back in the day,
Uh-huh.
I think it's for me around $1,000. If you're
Yeah,
not talking attached to like a $10 or $20,000 investment in a program.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the retreats right now, I'm really eyeballing some of these 3 to 4 grand retreats because I'm learning
Mm-hmm.
how freaking valuable it is to have that container for myself, like
Right.
in self care and just
Mm-hmm.
like turning inwards. Like, I'm not in a stage where I'm like wanting content. I want time and space and like connection
Yeah.
with people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like relationship building. That's a good point.
Yeah. What about you? What has been your most expensive one?
So I was in Jasmine Star's mastermind last year, and it was a 6 month mastermind that included
Yeah.
an in-person, like a 2 day in-person event. So the mastermind was, I don't know if I even said this on the podcast yet, but who cares? The mastermind was $25,000 for 6 months. So worth it. And so the in-person event was a big part of that. So it wasn't a $25,000 event, but I wouldn't have been able to go if I didn't
Right.
invest in
Right.
the mastermind. And honestly, because there was an in-person component to the mastermind, that is what pulled the trigger for me to even invest in the mastermind, because I know the relationships that are built there, the conversations. And like, yes, during the event there was content, so she would share, she had a guest speaker, she had James Wedmore there, like all that, but just like the dinner conversations with the person next to you, like
Yeah.
I'm talking about a problem in my business and they're like, oh, I had that problem 2 years ago, here's how I fixed it. Like, that's a $25,000 like return investment right there. Like, wow, I didn't think about changing this in my strategy. Or like a couple of the people in the mastermind actually booked me for a branding photo shoot. Like, I shot it there in California, or we met up in another state a couple months after, and it's like I helped them in that way, and they might have not done a branding photo shoot, and it's just like those like add-ons to certain things, so like group coaching, mastermind events, things like that. If they have an add-on for an event, that's another good like investment to have in your business, is like the coaching with the add-on. You recently did this. You had an event
Mhm.
a couple months ago, and it was a 2 day in-person event in Norfolk, but you also had like a VIP day add-on with a smaller group at like a beach house in Virginia Beach, which is
Yes.
really cool.
Yeah, yeah. So it was both. So I created the event for my students, kind of how you went
Mm-hmm.
to Jasmine's event, which you
Yeah.
guys, if you have a coaching program of any kind, like what a
Mm-hmm.
good value add to host something
Yeah.
for those people in person. So that was my
Yeah.
original intention with the event, was like, well, I'm going to host something for my students. Like, I can either do something that feels really safe, like, and
Mm-hmm.
just get a house with like 10 of us, or I can like kind of go big and like stretch myself. And
Right.
that really excited me to think about who I needed to become to like host the biggest deal event that I've done yet. And then
Mm-hmm.
I had the VIP day because a lot of my students that were traveling, we did stay in a house together. So it was kind of this combination of the high
Yeah.
touch retreat and the big 2 day event with
I
50
love it.
people. So we had like high touch with 10 people and then the big event with
Hmm.
50 people.
I love it. What's your largest event that you've attended?
Attended. So James's
Hmm.
Business by Design, the live with 1,000 people. Definitely, that's,
Yeah.
yeah. I would say that's definitely the biggest that I've been to. There may have been one of those like law firm conferences I went to that had over 1,000,
Hmm.
but that wasn't as much like my, like I was kind of there with the marketing team,
Right.
whereas like BBD was all in like my people. Like, these are my people.
Yeah. And you and I, our first Business by Design BBD event was about 300 attendees, I believe, in Laguna Beach. And
Hmm.
then when we went back this December, it was 1,000 people. And I love small events, I love mid-size, but I also do love large, because there's so many different connections. Like, I feel like these smaller events, you can build that relationship, like deep relationships, quickly with people right there when you're in a house with them or in a small event. with these large events, there's just so many people you can meet, like at the taco stand or in the bathroom or in line for water or like next to your seat. And then like the next day you're sitting with all different people. There's so many different points of connection. And usually they'll bring in like a bigger speaker. So you're getting different perspectives about things. But I love these large events. It's just so fun. Like sometimes you and I will see something, we'll be like, I don't necessarily know about the content they might be teaching, but like it looks like a good time.
Like,
so maybe we should
go. Yeah, I just want to be in the room. And honestly, when I think about investing in these things, I'm like, if I just walk away with one relationship, one relationship that I feel like has added value to my business or my life, like to me, that's worth it. I mean, like the in person, the connections that you make. I mean, I could literally do the math on one person that I met at an in-person event that has now given me over $60,000 in referrals.
Wow.
Right? Or the fact that I've gotten more Instagram followers in the past 6 months than I got in the past 4 years while I wasn't going to in-person events because of COVID. And now that everyone's going back to in-person events, I'm like, my Instagram is growing faster than ever. So it's like, you want to know like that growth strategy. If you want to simplify it, just in person, baby.
For sure. Another thing you and I have done together is like just like an implementation workshop where you go and it's like, this is the intention of the workshop. I'm walking away with something. And that is Love Her to Death, Promise Tangeman's Go Live. It was like a 2-day retreat. Promise Tangeman has the most gorgeous like websites, and she collabed with Show It. And this is just like, I was in the mastermind with her in Jasmine's mastermind, and I stayed at her home during the event. And I'm just like, girl, like you like turned a light bulb in me, like turned something on when we went to that event, and I fell walking into her house. I always have to mention that. But it's just like she hosted that multiple times a year for years. And it was like maybe like 10 to 12 attendees. And you come to her home, Show It, the website platform, like the CEO and the programmers of the Show It would come. And in 2 days, you would launch a brand new website. Like, think about the last time, for those listening, think about the last time you try to launch a website. It's like, okay, today I'm going to work on the about page. Tomorrow I'm going to work on this. Actually need to change the colors. It takes weeks, maybe months, maybe years for someone to launch a website. And the process that she had, we had like a Pinterest board going into it. We thought about our colors, our logo. We thought about like, she sent us a questionnaire. And in 2 days, we all launched a website from her home with her, with the Show It people. And it just like, it was like a light bulb turned on. I was like, I love to create these types of events where people come and take action. They take action. They have an expert with them. They implement things that they might have been sitting on for months. And I told her that when I stayed with her last year, I was like, that just like changed something in me as a business owner, as an educator, as like what I look forward to in investing in the future. Like there's nothing beats that, being able to.
And the price was so reasonable. Wasn't it like $750?
It was. And you know what was really cool is that she had done this so much. She had a promo where it was like, if you bring a friend, you both get like $50 or $100 off. So I saw it and I was like, you and Crystal come and I'm going to see if we can get like a $50 off. Yeah. And I was like, that's a cool promo. Like, come with your friends. And we went to LA. We stayed in, a hotel together. We were like taking headshots of each other on like Rodeo Drive. Like we made it so much fun. And I'm always thinking, anytime I'm hosting an event, like how can I create a space or an itinerary where people are taking action? Like last year I hosted the branding photography retreat and we did like website audits. People were updating their website. People were writing blog posts. We were getting content of each other. And this year I'm hosting one in October in Orlando, and it is literally a content creation retreat. Like I want the photographers who are always behind the camera, I want them to come get in front of the camera, get videos, like short form videos for like Reels and TikTok, get brand photos of them, and finally get the content that they can actually use, because so many photographers are so busy, serving their clients. And so like, I'm always thinking, whatever I'm doing, how can I create implementation time, taking action?
And how can they walk away with something? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's so valuable. I mean, especially photographers, because they're always behind the camera, like to be in the videos and in the content. And we were talking about this the other day. Like I know people that do this for a living, and it's like a $7,000 investment, right? So like,
I know
people are getting a steal.
I know. And the house is sick. Oh my gosh. We're staying in this huge, like 7,000 square foot, 14 bedroom home in Orlando. And I'm so, so excited. So I feel like it's just fun to create these events, to attend these events. Like you and I have been in business over a decade and we are still sending each other links like, look at this event, look at that one. Should we go to this one? And, you know, we go to the same ones over and over, like James Wedmore's event. We're going to keep going year after year just because we know it. We trust him. We have a good time there. Are there any things that are on your radar? Not like a specific event, but like a specific type of event that you're looking forward to attending in the next couple of years?
I mean, right now I'm really focused on ones where I can has quiet time to meditate together. Like I'm not craving teach me something anymore. And that's not because I know everything, but it's right. Learned I don't need to learn things. I need to implement what I already know. I need to trust myself that I'm not really interested in what worked for somebody else. I'm interested in unlocking everything that works for me. And a lot of the events that I'm looking at for the fall, especially, are more on that high touch retreat, meditate, do yoga, beautiful views, nature.
I love that.
That's just the woo that I'm into right now. But it ebbs and flows. There will be a point where I'm I need a new website. What can I do to get a new website? Or I want to learn, or I want to go to a retreat where I can get 6 months worth of content. It changes, but that's definitely what I'm craving right now, because I just see so many cool things happening when I give myself that space of just silence or whatever.
I love that for you, especially for the fall, because I feel like fall can be so busy. Just I like to take December off. So my fall is always chaos because I want to make sure I'm serving everyone. I'm, shooting these clients, launching these programs, getting everything done before Thanksgiving, because from Thanksgiving to December 31, I'm done. So I feel like you booking some sort of, retreat or event or something where you can just relax in that season.
Yes. Would be so right before the hustle and bustle of the holidays.
Yeah.
I'm looking at 2 different ones that are in November. So, but yeah, I mean, that's definitely what I'm craving right now. But the in-person, I'm really reflecting on the fact that I stepped away from them for so long. And yes, some of it was COVID, but some of it was also my ego and oh, well, I don't want to learn from them, or there's not going to be anybody there. I mean, really, these are the things that go through our minds as human beings, or there's not going to be anyone there that is interested in me, very ego, self-serving. And when I did all the self-development work and let that go and was I'm just going to go to whatever events that I get invited to, that my friends are going to, and I'm just going to be open to receive whatever it is. And everything has changed. That my ability to build relationships in these rooms that I felt like I didn't belong in. I'm that wasn't the room. That was all me. That was all me.
It's it's all the ego. I feel the same way. I've definitely looked at events where I'm just oh, I don't know if either I'm the right fit for this or the content's right. But when you really, like you said, do the self work and figure out what's causing those thoughts. You can realize
the people that emailed me about my event and they were I don't go to events unless I'm speaking. And they would say that. And I'm ooh, I have had those thoughts. Yeah. And I'm ooh, I've had those thoughts in my head in the past, right? Oh, when do I know when to be an attendee or when to be a speaker? But their loss, because my event, there were millionaires in the audience, more millions. I primed that room to spend money, and anybody that did not attend, that is their loss.
It was so much fun. Liz's event was so much fun. I actually spoke at your event, and I literally halfway through my presentation was on building a personal brand and leveraging it for profit. And I was everybody get up. I'm putting a 2-minute timer and you're going to just take content of yourself right now. So when you,
and they did, it was so cool.
Yeah. To see. And I was getting tagged in reels and stories. And I was just people taking action. When you get in person, I know what you're saying about people reaching out saying, oh, I can't go unless I'm speaking. I know that you and I both in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, we'll still be attending, even though we might be teaching. We might be we might own something that like own an educational platform, whatever. We're still, you and I at 60 years old are going to be in Laguna Beach in a hotel attending an event and making weekend out of it and learning. Like, we are forever students. We are forever students, no matter how much we teach, we educate, we coach, we plan, we host. You and I are forever students, and that really just contributes to growth. I don't know why people feel that they come to this spot where I've learned everything I need to learn. I've met everyone I need to meet. Like, okay, stand in your own way. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to be out there shaking hands and at the beach with Liz in a hotel in the midst of a networking event. Like, that's just how we do.
Yes. And like the biggest shift for me was realizing, like, and not just saying it, but like realizing that I truly can learn from anyone. Right. Mm-hmm. And I feel like old Liz, like, to bring other people on stage, I would have had this fear of like, oh, what if they say the wrong thing? Or what if I say the wrong thing? Or what if the audience doesn't enjoy the person that I'm bringing on stage? Where now I'm just kind of like, everything is either a lesson where we can learn or we're doing something from it. So like, there's no more like fear of like, oh, I can't bring so-and-so on the stage. Like, I'm like, no, let me bring everybody up. Everybody has value to add. I can learn from everybody.
Ooh, yes.
The room can learn from everybody. And that really makes a huge, huge, huge difference.
Yes. And everyone, like you said, everyone has value, including you as an attendee. Yeah. Like, yes, come to learn and meet and network, but you being in the room, speaking to the person next to you is adding value to their life, to their business in more ways than you can imagine. So don't ever feel like you don't belong in the room, because everyone has their own unique value. Liz, as we wrap this up, can we just go through some quick tips for how to really leverage in-person networking? So how to like make those relationships stick and last. Just like some quick tips you might have for the next time someone goes to an event.
What this made me think of was like, as we rise, we should almost, because I understand the whole like time thing. Like, should I commit to going to all these things when I also have a heavy speaking schedule? But as we rise, as our business becomes more successful, like the vision for me, and I know for you, because we've talked about this with James, is to become more generous, right? So the more successful I am, the more time that I can just give to being in rooms, rather than, oh, I don't go unless I'm speaking because I don't have time. It's like, as we elevate and our business learns to run itself, like, how cool that we get to be in that like generous space of giving. Okay. But how to maximize and get the most out of an event. The most important thing here, and I'm not just saying this because I know I'm a great facilitator, but like, really lean into someone that you trust. Like Angie said, we go to all of James's events because we trust him as the facilitator, because a facilitator that knows how to bring people together and how to shine the light on every person, and that every person in the room has that infinite potential, like that is key. Like, if you ever are in a space and you feel like someone is just talking at you and you're just an audience member, like, just start to pay attention to the rooms that you're putting yourself in, and like that energy and that facilitator, but also the other people that are going. And then to get the most out of it is just to be a giver. Like, learn to listen, like, learn to ask people, not just like, hey, what do you do? But like, what do you love about what you do? Or tell me about your favorite client. Like, get people really talking. And if you go with this intention of like, I'm just going to listen, you will feel completely different when you leave. Because we all really get this like headlights of like, oh, like, how can I show people how awesome I am? Like, I used to feel this need to like be the talker. And I've really learned to be the listener. And it's completely shifted what I get out of like time with other people.
I love that. Those are great tips. You made such a great point about finding someone that you trust and investing in their events, because same with Jasmine, it was a very expensive mastermind. That was the biggest investment I've ever made in my business, but I had 100% faith in the investment because I know Jasmine would bring together the right 15 women. I know that it was a curated group, and I knew that she would bring together the right women. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to invest in Jasmine. I'm going to invest in this mastermind. I was like, I'm going to invest in this group.
Yeah.
Like, I know that we're going to have lifelong relationships. And we do. We text all the time. Like, we've worked together. My 2 tips are, of course, I'm going to pull out the social media side because that's my jam, is the pre-event and post-event. Something that I do if I'm going to an event, especially something small where I know who's going to be there, I will send a DM in advance, a voice DM, like, hey, I'm going to this event next week and I saw that you're going to. I'm so excited. Like, starting those relationships early so that, especially if I travel alone often. I go to events by myself often. And I'm like, I want to make sure I know at least one person, like virtually, before I get there. So I'm not like 100% wallflower, just like looking around. And so I will reach out in advance. You can do this by looking at like the host who's coming. Maybe they're talking about it. You can go to like a hashtag for the event and just reach out and tell people you're excited to connect with them there, starting those relationships early. And then my second tip is on the back end of that. After you've met people in person, like continue the relationship online, whether you're connected on Instagram or you hop on their email list or you connect via LinkedIn. Like some of these lifelong relationships that you and I both have, we've met them at an event once and we haven't seen them since, but we still text, Vox, email, DM, all that. So don't ghost your people after you've met them in person. Cultivate the relationship through any other channel that you have. So those are my 2 tips.
Oh my gosh, so important. Yeah. And I know for our event, we made this little online directory because I value that before and after so much. Like I hate when I go to an event and I'm like, oh, I know I talked to that girl when I was getting coffee and I know her name was Sarah, but I have no idea how to find her or what she does. So like we made this whole directory so that people wouldn't have those moments that they could go back and like, oh, there she is. And that's the person that I talked to. Because you're right, the before and after, and oh my God, the social proof. Like, talk about content, whether you're an attendee or a host, just the social proof of like being out there, you know, like, oh man, that's another form of dividends.
Yeah, I love that. Liz, this was so fun to bring our Voxer conversation to the podcast.
Like we could definitely keep going. I love this topic so much.
Thanks so much for chatting with me. And hey, cheers to our next event that we either go to or we host.
Well, I know you're hosting one, and every time I'm like, Angie, don't you need me to like carry some equipment for you?
Take behind the scenes for the event for sure. Come and party with us.
I have, and I will. If you ever need me, I will be there.
Oh, yay. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. You can check Liz out. I'll put all her links in the show notes, and I'm sure you'll see her on social because we're besties and we're just always chatting in together. So
that's right.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, friend. Thank you so much for tuning into the Angie McPherson Show. I hope this episode ignited a fire within you, motivating you to take bold and inspired action. As a gift for listening, I've created a free download of my business toolkit featuring all the essential tools and apps I use to grow my business. Just head over to angiemcpherson.com/toolkit to get your copy. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing and leaving a rating or review wherever you're listening. And if you're feeling extra generous, sharing the podcast with a friend goes a long way, and I am truly grateful for your support. For any resources and links mentioned in today's episode, make sure to check out the show notes. Keep moving forward, friend, as each step takes you closer to your goals. I'll catch you next week for another episode.